grew up in the Five Points area of Toledo, you might have come across this strange character that went by St. Giffo. Drinking coffee, sketching profusely, and speaking like a sober Yoda. At first sight, you're like, this guy's an artist. And you were right. I remember when I was about 12 years old, I was doing some running around with my best friend Tom and his dad, Walter. Solid man.
Just as we were pulling up to a post office, Tom's dad spotted St. Giffo just walking down the street.
Walter just couldn't help himself. He said, "Hey boys, look at this hippie over here." And as I turned my head, my buddy Tom said, "That's Tony's grandfather." My grandfather was quite the artist. The only thing is, as a kid I didn't understand him. He spoke in haikus and...
We're just air conditioners. I mean, after all, we're just walking around on the planet, breathing, conditioning the air.
And as I was coming of age to understand him, he passed in 2007 in a church bathroom during my cousin's wedding. It's fine, it's fine. They're divorced now. But people that know this about me, they often say, "Oh, you must have got your talents from your grandfather." Maybe? I mean, I got my love from sign painting from him, and my love for overalls. The easiest, the cheapest way to get into sign painting, go down to your big box store and you're gonna hit up a little department called mist tints. This is where all the cheap paint is at, and every once in a while, you find some gold. Wall paint is beneficial because of the color choices you can get at most places, and like I said, the mist tint place, primo. You can thin it down by just simply adding a little bit of water to it, mixing it in. You want this stuff to be the viscosity of a recently melted milkshake, or just... Very common thing to find, chip brushes. C-H-I-P. There you go. You weren't wrong the first time. You can get these for a couple of quarters, and yeah, they're not great. You get what you pay for, but you can mod them to your liking. You want to give it a Gumby cut. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna lead with your short side as you paint. I'll show you about that later. Easy, cheap. So we got all of our supplies, but what to paint? I mean, well, you know what I've always wanted to do? Just installed some OSB boarding for a wall. Wanted to try my hand at insulation, and the door's installed. Not bad for my first time. There's only one problem though.
You're boring.
What the hell are O-girls? O-girls are overalls. See, when my daughter was about 3, she couldn't pronounce her words right, so she always "Dad's wearing his O-girls." O-girls they are. And if you ever correct my daughter on how to pronounce it correctly, I'll cut you. This is the knife I'll use.
Request permission to engage with the dead. Conduct a smash. Over.
After 2 coats of base coat, this OSB is still rough. Enter wall hogs. They're short, they're hard, they're chiseled, and they're pink. When you're painting lines, take your time. Lead with the short end of the brush and let the long side of the brush be the tail. Break down your mural into smaller shapes. Outline the whole area and then fill it in. Now that that's done, we can go through and clean it up now. We're gonna do something called cutbacks. You've seen me do this with graffiti. You can do it with sign painting too. You can go through, clean up lines. You can make the light lines thinner. You can also make the dark lines thicker. I swear to patina. If you're sloppy at doing murals or brush painting, Tina's your friend. Tina is an acquired change of a surface through age and exposure, adding ornamental value. My definition is, two flaws make it awesome. Make it look aged, make it look a little decrepit, make it like you planned it. Pretty easy. You just take your background color, put a little bit on the lid, take an old bag, scrunch it up, and then dab it on there. You open it up and you get like a random ass pattern. And when you apply it to the wall, it's gonna look like natural paint chips are missing. Now you can go all avant-garde with it with the brush splatters, but it doesn't look like it's chipped paint. It just looks like crap. By the way, Jackson Pollock was a hack. Fight me in the comments. Looks nice. Now over here, we got the good stuff. Start with brushes. Best brushes, quills. Quills are long, they're soft, and they got a little bit of snap to them. Is this doing anything for you? But the most important thing about quills is the very tip of it has like a squared edge to it. This is exactly what keeps it the most diverse brush in your collection. You can do straight letters with it, you can do calligraphy letters with it, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. I love quills. Next up, scripts. At first glance, scripts look just like the quills do, except for they don't square up at the edge. It's a nice, clean taper point. Anyway, these are good for like delicate lines and do like little like filigree things. I wouldn't use these for pinstriping, but you could. Now the big boys, the mops. These boys are chunky. Well, sets these apart from the other two I showed you. These ones have a round furl. Okay, close enough. Where these mops, they pinch them tight so that way they have a uniform thickness all the way through. These are awesome for straight up, thick, bold lines. I love these guys. I already showed you the wall hogs. You can use it for both acrylic and for enamel. And lastly, the dagger. These are what you use for pinstriping. These also scare the living bejesus out of me. I don't fuck with the daggers. Paint. If you're a purist, an old school guy, or just a cranky hipster, one shot is probably what you're gonna use. This is the Sign Painter's Sign Paint. It's been around for ages, but I hate that it comes in cans. As you see, I have to drill a hole in the top and then put a screw in there in order to get to it. There's gotta be a better way. Well, there is. Meet Alpha Enamel. Made here in the USA, in Detroit.
No, not Detroit, no!
They come in a square bottle, easy to mix up. I like these guys more than the one shot. I don't know. I like them. So these paints are naturally thick. You gotta reduce them down to get a nice clean flow. Reducer. Dip your brush in the reducer, mix it with the paint, get to it. Cold reducer for cold temps, hot reducer for hot temps. It ain't rocket science. Marking utensils. It doesn't get cheaper than sidewalk chalk. You can get this stuff on most surfaces and the paint really doesn't get too messed up by it either. Once again, if you're a purist, Pounce stencils. So what you do is you draw up your design on paper, you take your Pounce wheel, you cut all over these little tiny holes. It takes forever, you get carpal tunnel in your hands.
Cramps up and then you can't even paint for the day because
pouncing sucks. Oh, wait, you're not even done yet. Then you have to take one of these Pounce pads that have chalk, you put it on the thing, it transfers the thing, it's a mess.
Oh, that must be exhausting.
Get yourself a projector and some of these pencils. I don't know how to pronounce it. They come in a variety of colors, you can sketch all over them, and then when you're done, you just take a rag with a little bit of water, wipes right off. After that, you gotta clean your brushes, so you wanna get one of these little cleaning pails. You wanna clean your brushes thoroughly in this little can. let it air dry, make sure all the paint is out of there, and then you're gonna put some brush preserver on there. Just dip it in there, reshape it, real quick. No matter what you use, be nice to your brushes. If you're nice to your brushes, they'll return the favor in the long run. Unlike Tara at our Sadie Hawkins dance. Yeah, I'm still bitter. Other than that, I got rulers, I got rags, I've got some other stuff, and this...
Pain in the ass!
So once again, what do? You know, I've got someone very special in my life. We've been together for over a decade. Been with me through thick and thin. You're the love of my life. My muse. I love you more than you could ever know. Can you move a little to the left? Time for a Giffo story. One day, Giffo got hired to paint a window for a little deli here in town. They agreed on the price, and then when he showed up with all of his equipment, the owner said, well, I've only got half the money. And Giffo said, no problem, I'll only paint half the sign. The owner's like, well, that seems fair, just do the outlines. He goes, whatever. So Giffo painted half of the sign he wanted to paint. Wouldn't you know it, the owner had all the money, so he was able to complete the mural that day.
So did you catch that? When I want to do shorter lines or thinner lines or even like smaller details, I'm only using about 10 to 50% of the brush. This makes it a little bit more nimble to get in those tight corners. But when I want to do thicker or continuous lines, I'm using about a good 50 to 90% of that brush. The heel's almost touching the actual surface. So, does this logo look familiar? It should. You might know Mack Trucks for making big ol' semis, but here at Acme, we specialize in lowriders.
Sure, you can paint on painted surfaces, but what about bare metal? All you want to do is just lightly sand the surface. That little bit of scuff's going to help that paint stick. Once you get done sanding, just hit it with some acetone, and then do what you do. You'll see this one next episode. Bonjour. Hey! No, I was just about to call you back. You want a sign? Yeah, I can do that. What does the end do? Records. Like Guinness? Vinyl. Oh, what's his favorite album? Beach Boys. Smile? Isn't that record like unfinished? Dog? Pepe? Is you a good boy? I bet he is. Named after a restaurant in Key West. Yeah, I got it. Bye! These are pounce wheels. This is more like what the classic sign painters used to do to replicate designs over and over, especially like on trucks, or what we're doing in this case. You need something a little squishy underneath it, but not too squishy. I find that cork pad works the best. All you do is you just kind of put this wheel right on that line and make sure you're putting little holes, little perforations on there. Once we have all the lines done, you just kind of sand the back.
Come on now, cut it out.
But the paint's all nice and dry. Let's put our stencil back on. Try to line it up the best you can. And we're gonna tape down just the top. And then we can easily move it back and forth and see what we're working with. This is a pounce pad. All that really is a tiny little sponge that's nice and soft with a bunch of powdered chalk in there. Pretty much just gonna get a little bit of chalk on that sponge and just kind of pat it here and there. That chalk's gonna seep through all those tiny little holes that we made earlier and give us a little stencil. Gently peel it back. It's really hard to see it on this white background, but in the record you really can see it. Nice little guideline to work with. This one on white is so hard to see. I might as well just go through the pencil and kind of outline it. So this sign is based off of a really old sign, so that's why we did the aged paper. But we're also going to give the lettering a little bit more of like an aged look too by doing something called dry brushing. Dry brushing means, one, we're going to get rid of the reducer. And then we're going to swap out the brush, what we use on the wall, short, hard brushes. Now between these two changes, you're gonna see more of the brush strokes, some inconsistencies, and it's almost gonna give it that vibe that it's already been weathered, even though it's kind of like a good, crappy job. Either way, it's gonna look cool and retro. Now you might be wondering, why didn't I use the black pounce pad the first time? Well, when you have black chalk on there and you're using a lighter color like the blue or the red, it's actually gonna smear that chalk in the paint, giving you some not sexy results. At least not the results we're going for. With Pepe here being pretty much a black outline, that black chalk is just gonna mix in with this gray paint and no one's gonna see it.
Not bad, not bad.
Let's do a quick recap. Wall paint. It's cheaper, dries fast, a lot easier getting the supplies for it, and less supplies. The only problem is it's not exactly durable and you don't get the best results. Also, you're kind of limited on what this paint can do. The Sign Painter's kit though, better results. Classic looking, extremely durable, but expensive. Slow drying, tons of finesse to learn, and a lot of hard to find supplies. What if I told you, you can get all the pros of this by leaving all the cons of this in the mystery box? I wonder what it is. Here's what I use. I use boring old construction paper for my stencil, and I just use scissors and a pencil to sketch on it. I still use the fancy brushes and also the cleaner, but instead of using the fancy paint, spray paint. You can sign paint, you can brush paint with this stuff. There is a trick to it though. Clear coat. I'll show you.
out.
Getting jiggy with it.
Do you ever wonder why you have to shake spray paint before you use it? Essentially, every can has paint and reducer built right into the can. So when you're shaking that up, you're actually mixing these two up inside the can. The only problem is when you brush paint with it, too much reducer will reignite the base coat as you're putting the lines on. So, putting clear coat in between your base coat and your lining, it's almost like a buffer. Putting the lines over the clear coat will reignite it, but it's not gonna mix the same way the base coat would. So Marquee signs always have this like metal band frame on there, and truth be told, I'm getting into some very unknown territory. Jesus, take the wheel. Ah, never mind. Not bad for my first shot. A couple things I learned. Number one, I should have wore gloves. This metal doesn't seem sharp until... Number two, do one screw at a time. It cuts down on how wavy this metal gets on the edges. Third, this gutter clampy straightener thingy was much more useful than the mallet or anything else. It has these nice little measurements on the side, so you can make sure that you're getting like the perfect angle all the way through. So if you plan on making something like this is what you need. Let's get some lights in there. So these are gonna be in the front of all these holes right here, and it's gonna allow the light bulb to get installed and then kind of clean up the edge of that. But its secondary job is to stop the plug nice and flat. I can't believe how lucky I am. The light bulbs and like the sockets just went together like peas and carrots. No glue, no nothing, just a perfect pressure fit. I'd rather be lucky than good. So sign painting, is it perfect? Mine ain't. There's something about it, you know, to all the flaws. It's like proof that it's handmade. I mean, anyone could buy a door, print out a decal, slap it on there, but when I paint the door, it's not just a door, it's my door. By customizing it, it becomes like an extension of me. Jesus, I'm starting to sound like Giffo.
Derivative.
Speaking of that, did I get my talents from my grandfather? No, I don't think I did. I think he gave me proof that you could be an artist. But it's a lot of my other family that really nurtured it. When my grandmother used to babysit me, she'd put on Bob Ross and listen to the Police Scanner. Whether I painted a Sistine Chapel or did a stick figure, super pumped either way. I mean, it was my Uncle Scott leaving magazines out that showed me art that I'd never seen in art museums. Hell, Aunt Rose even showed me that art could be a weapon. But I think out of all my family, my mom had the biggest impact. It showed me that creativity and silliness go hand in hand. So the next time you get a hankering to make some art,
Do it.
whether it's good or not, it just might brighten up your day. God, that was corny. Who writes this garbage?